My name is Claire Westbrook, and on the night I died, my family was smiling for photos under crystal chandeliers, toasting champagne at a charity gala. No, that's not a metaphor. I was declared clinically dead for 78 seconds, while my sister delivered a speech about compassion and community and accepted a humanitarian award. Until that night, I was the backbone of the Westbrook family, the fixer, the responsible one, the daughter who showed up at 3 a.m. because mom was spiraling over dad's latest business failure, the sister who bailed Valerie out of mess after mess, financial, emotional, social, and never asked for a thank you. That morning, my assistant Carla watched me double over at my desk. "Claire," she said gently, "you really need to go to urgent care. That's not food poisoning." But I waved her off. There was no time. I was finalizing a pitch that could save Dad's company. Again. "Just give me 10 minutes," I said. Those 10 minutes nearly ended my life. By the time I staggered into urgent care, my vision was swimming. The doctor took one look at me and called for an ambulance. I heard the words, internal bleeding, possible ruptured cyst. My hands trembled as I tried to call someone. Mom, straight to voicemail. Dad, no answer. Valerie was my last hope. She answered on the fourth ring. "Claire, I can't talk. The gala starts in 2 hours and the florist screwed everything up." "I'm in an ambulance," I whispered. "They think something ruptured." There was silence. Then she said, "Oh my God. Seriously? Tonight of all nights? You know how important this is. I'm getting an award." Pain surged again, and the paramedic gently pulled the phone from my hand. The last thing I heard before I passed out was my sister's voice. "Just handle it yourself for once." And then, darkness. When I opened my eyes, everything was soft and blurry. The lights above me were too bright, and the sound of machines beeped in slow, steady rhythm, like a metronome trying to pull me back from the edge. A nurse leaned over me, adjusting my IV. Her name tag read Rowan. "Welcome back," she said gently. "You gave us quite a scare." My throat felt like sandpaper. I tried to speak, but it took everything just to get the words out. "My family?" Her face changed, just slightly, enough for me to know the answer before she said it. "We called your emergency contacts," she said softly. "Left voicemails when you went into surgery, but no one came." My chest tightened in a way the incision couldn't explain. "How long was I?" "The surgery took about 4 hours," Rowan said. "You've been unconscious for nearly 6. My eyes drifted to the bedside table. My phone sat there, screen dark, battery full. I picked it up with trembling hands. No missed calls, no texts, no voicemails, just one Instagram notification. "Valerie Westbrook tagged you in a post." I opened it. There they were, my mother in her signature emerald gown, Dad in his tuxedo. Valerie, front and center in a shimmering gold dress, clutching her award and beaming like she had just been crowned royalty. The caption read, "Family is everything. Couldn't have done this without their endless support. Blessed beyond words." I checked the timestamp. It had been posted while I was still in surgery, while I was dying. Rowan touched my arm, her voice kind but firm. "Your doctor will be in shortly. You should rest." I nodded, but I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. My body felt hollow, not just from the blood loss, but from something much deeper. A few minutes later, a doctor entered the room, clipboard in hand, tired eyes, kind voice. "Claire," he said, "how are you feeling?" Like I was gutted. I tried to joke. It didn't land. He didn't smile. "That's not far from the truth," he said. "The cyst ruptured and caused severe internal bleeding. We were lucky to catch it in time." Then he paused, glancing down at his notes. "There's something else. Something you should know." I stared at the ceiling. Somehow, I already knew. "Your heart stopped," he said. "For 78 seconds. You were clinically dead." I let out a soft, bitter laugh. 78 seconds. That's oddly specific. We document everything carefully. He hesitated, studying my face. Is there someone you'd like us to call for you? I looked back at my phone. 10 hours since my first call for help. 10 hours since I reached out to the people who said they'd always be there. I set the phone down. No, I said, voice quiet but steady. There's no one to call. I woke up the next morning to a silence that didn't feel restful. It felt empty. The machines still beeped softly beside me. The IV dripped on rhythm. My body ached in every direction, but it was the quiet that hurt most. The kind of silence that comes when people who say they love you don't show up. I picked up my phone. The lock screen was blank. No missed calls, no messages, just the same notification blinking at the top. Valerie had posted again. I opened Instagram. More photos from the gala. There she was, smiling with her fiancé, flanked by our parents, champagne flutes in hand. Each post was a reminder, each caption a jab. A perfect night I'll never forget. Surrounded by love. Thank you to my incredible family. I zoomed in on their faces. Not a shadow of concern, not a single frown. Just perfect smiles, glossy skin, and the kind of happiness that felt choreographed. My phone buzzed again. A message from Valerie. OMG, you will not believe what happened after you left. No greeting, no check-in, just excitement. She launched into the story like I hadn't almost died. Jordan proposed. Right there at the gala, it was like a fairy tale. Seriously, you missed everything. I stared at the message, then typed 2 words. I died. There was a pause. Then, don't be so dramatic. The doctor said you're fine now, right? Anyway, about the wedding. I let the phone fall into my lap. Rowan came in, her nurse's eyes scanning the monitors. Your vitals are a little high. Everything okay? Just family, I murmured, trying to sit up. I winced. Doctor wants to keep you 1 more day, she said, fluffing my pillow. Your mother called the desk earlier, asked if you could email over some work documents for your father. Of course she did. I picked up my phone again. Mom, need you to send Dad's quarterly reports. Urgent. Dad, call me ASAP, bank meeting tomorrow. Valerie, don't tell Mom, but I maxed the family card at the after party. Can you spot me 5K? I stared at the screen, then slowly, I started deleting. One message, then another, then all of them. Rowan watched me carefully. You want me to tell them you're sleeping? Tell them whatever you want, I said. I opened my email instead. To HR department. Subject, emergency contact update. Please remove all listed family members from my personnel file, effective immediately. A knock came at the door. Emery stepped inside, holding a real coffee and my laptop bag. She looked tired but determined. I figured you might want this, she said, setting it down beside me. Real caffeine, and your laptop, because I know you. I smiled. For the first time in days, it wasn't forced. The office is fine, she said. I gave the presentation. Your dad's company isn't going to collapse without you, not for a few days, at least. My voice cracked. Thank you. She reached into her tote and pulled out a folder. Also brought this, she said. Medical proxy paperwork. Thought you might want to make some edits. I stared at it. How did you know? She looked me straight in the eye. Because I've met your family, and I was here last night when they weren't. Before I could answer, another buzz. A message from Jordan. Your sister told everyone you had food poisoning. Just thought you should know. Emery gently took the phone from my hand. Want me to turn this off? Before I could answer, the door opened again, and in swept the last person I wanted to see. The perfume hit before the voice did. Floral, sharp, and unmistakably hers. Claire, darling, you look awful. My mother swept into the room like a gust of judgment. Her pearls were perfect, her coat pristine, her concern performative. She leaned in to air kiss my cheek. not too close, not enough to actually touch me. We were so worried when we got the messages this morning. I blinked slowly. This morning? I asked. Not last night, when I was in surgery, when my heart stopped. She straightened her jacket, brushing invisible lint from her sleeve. Well, you know how these galas are. We couldn't just leave. Valerie was receiving an award. I died, Mom. She waved her hand dismissively, like I'd mentioned forgetting my umbrella. Oh, Claire, don't be melodramatic. You're fine now. And wait till you see Valerie's ring. Jordan really did well. They'll need help with the down payment, of course, but I told them you'd— I think Claire needs rest, Emery interrupted sharply, standing up from her chair. My mother blinked, finally registering her presence. And who are you? Someone who was here last night, I said quietly. The room went still. Mom's polished mask faltered for just a breath before snapping back into place. Well, she sniffed, gathering her bag, I can see you're not in a reasonable mood. Call me when you're more yourself. She turned at the door. Oh, and don't forget those financial documents for your father. The door clicked shut. Silence followed. Emery placed the folder gently back in my lap. Ready to make those changes? I opened the medical proxy paperwork and began to write, removing names, replacing every person who had failed me. Every line I crossed out felt like cutting away a vine that had been choking me since childhood. They're going to be furious, I said, signing the last page. Let them be, Emery replied, calm and firm. You almost died, Claire. Maybe now. It's time to start living. I looked at my phone again. The group chat was still lighting up. Photos from the gala, messages about cake tastings, venue lists, guest head counts. Not one person asked how I was. I turned the phone off. For good this time. And in the quiet that followed, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Relief. 3 days after surgery, Emery helped me settle back into my apartment. Every movement hurt. It felt like my insides were stitched together with fishing line. But pain in your own bed is still better than peace in a hospital room haunted by absence. Your fridge is a war crime, Emery called from the kitchen. I'm ordering groceries. You don't have to do that. Too late, she said, appearing in the doorway. Also, I'm staying in the guest room tonight. No arguments. I didn't argue. I collapsed onto the couch as my phone buzzed. Again. Dad's accountant. Urgent transfer needed for business liabilities. Delete. Valerie. Mom says you're being difficult, but I need help locking in the wedding venue. Deposits due today. Delete. Emery returned with a stack of envelopes and a grim look. Your lawyer dropped these off at the office, said you'd want to see them. Inside was everything I hadn't known I needed. Bank separation forms, power of attorney revocations, trust fund account access, every document a doorway to freedom. There's something else, Emery said, pulling out her laptop. I handle compliance stuff for the hospital board, remember? I looked at your admission files. She turned the screen toward me. There it was. A document time-stamped the night of my surgery, naming Valerie Westbrook as my medical proxy, signed with my digital signature. My stomach dropped. I never signed that, I whispered. I know. Someone submitted it while you were unconscious. She clicked through. She used it to approve liability waivers so the gala could go on without interruption and to cover herself in case you didn't make it. The room spun. I made it to the sink just in time. After I'd thrown up, Emery handed me water and waited. We need to report this. No, I said, wiping my mouth. I have a better idea. I picked up my phone and dialed. Margaret, I want every account locked down, every document reviewed, every signature verified, and I want a full audit of my trust fund, 10 years back. Margaret didn't flinch. Already on it, she said. And Claire, you should see this. She emailed over the first file. Line after line of quiet withdrawals, tens of thousands skimmed from my trust fund during college. Withdrawals I never authorized. Your parents had access, Margaret said. They've been quietly siphoning for years. You want to press charges? I stared at the screen. I remembered those years, working 3 jobs, eating stale noodles, watching my parents post vacation photos from Italy, Greece, Barcelona. Not yet, I said. Just document everything. The doorbell rang. Emery checked the camera. It's your mom. I didn't move. She's calling your name. We waited. She knocked, pleaded, and eventually walked away. You okay? Emery asked quietly. I took a deep breath, then opened my contact list and started deleting names, one by one. I'm okay, I said. Actually, I'm free. That night, after Emery had gone to bed, I sat out on the balcony with a cup of tea and the city lights flickering at my feet. For the first time in years, the silence didn't scare me. It soothed me. No phones ringing, no family fires to put out. Just stillness. Just me. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Jordan. Just saw what Valerie did with the hospital paperwork. I'm so sorry. For what it's worth, I've called off the engagement. I stared at the screen, my heart steady. I typed back, "Thank you for telling me." Then I opened my laptop, not to work, but to begin cutting the last threads. To Memorial Hospital Administration. Subject: Fraudulent medical proxy. I am writing to report unauthorized access and forged documentation submitted during my emergency surgery. 2. Family Financial Advisor. Subject: Immediate account separation. Please remove Theodore and Elaine Westbrook from all joint or shared accounts associated with my name, effective immediately. 2. Human Resources. Subject: Final Emergency Contact Update. Please remove all family members from my employee file and future records. Each email sent felt like setting down a stone I'd been forced to carry since I was a child. Then the phone buzzed again. Valerie. Calling. This time there was no hesitation. I hit block. The next morning, I sipped real coffee while Emery sorted through her inbox. Your sister's been calling the office, she said. Says it's urgent. It always is. She mentioned something about bounced checks and wedding vendors threatening to sue. I took another sip. Sounds like a her problem. You know they're going to escalate, right? I turned my phone to show her the screen. Missed calls, voicemails, hundreds of messages, all unanswered. I'm done bleeding for people who wouldn't notice if I bled out again. Emery smiled softly, then leaned in. Want to get breakfast? There's a new cafe opening downtown. Actually, I said, standing up, I think I'm ready to go back to work. You sure? It hasn't even been a full week. I'm sure. But before I packed my bag, I typed one final message. To Valerie. Subject: Hospital records. I know what you did. Don't ever contact me again. I hit send, and for the first time since waking up in that hospital bed, my body didn't feel like it was falling apart. It felt whole. 3 weeks passed. In that time, I returned to work. I smiled in meetings. I cleared my inbox. I drank coffee that didn't taste like hospital bleach. To most people, I looked fine. But underneath, something had shifted. Something permanent. Sarah buzzed through the intercom. Your mother's in the lobby again, she said. 3rd time this week. I didn't look up from my screen. Standard response. I'm sorry, Mrs. Westbrook, but Claire is in meetings all day. From my office window, I could see her through the glass. Flawless as always. Heels, pearls, and fury, arguing with building security. Theatrics had always been her specialty. Then the office line rang again. Sarah's voice was more cautious this time. Your sister's here too. They came together. Of course they did. I grabbed my coat and laptop. Sarah, I'm working from home. If anyone asks, meetings, all day. I took the emergency stairwell. Halfway down, I heard the sharp click of heels behind me. Claire, stop right there. I didn't. I walked faster. You can't ignore us forever. Valerie's voice rang out. Mom's crying every day. Dad's business is falling apart. My wedding vendors are threatening to sue. I stopped, turned around slowly. Sounds rough, I said. Maybe forge some more documents to fix it? She flinched. That's not what. I saw the hospital files, Valerie, the timestamps. You committed fraud while I was dying. I had to, she snapped. The gala was too important. I stared at her, emotionless. So was my life. I turned to walk away. Wait, she grabbed my arm. Please, I need help. The venue's suing for $60,000. Jordan's not speaking to me. I'm drowning. I pulled free. My voice was like steel. Not my problem, but you're my sister. No, I said. I wasn't your sister when I was bleeding out alone in an ambulance. I was just a burden. The stairwell door swung open and I stepped through, letting it slam behind me. Her voice echoed faintly through the concrete, growing smaller with every step. Later that night, I poured myself a glass of wine and opened my laptop. An email from Margaret had just come through. Subject: Trust Fund Audit Complete. Your parents withdrew $157,000 from your trust during your college years. Let me know if you'd like to pursue legal action. I stared at the figure. I thought about those years, working graveyard shifts, skipping meals, watching Mom post photos of wine tastings in Italy while I scrounged for grocery coupons. Now I knew how they paid for it all. My doorbell rang. Through the camera feed, I saw my mother. Mascara streaked, wrinkles she'd never let show, panic in her voice. Claire, please, just talk to us. We're family. I turned the music up. My phone buzzed. Emery. Therapy at 7, I'll drive. Yes, please, I typed back. At Dr. Lisa's office, I sank into the familiar chair. She studied me quietly. Family ambush? Lobby at work. I nodded. They're unraveling. How does that make you feel? I looked at my hands. Nothing, I said. That's the weird part. I feel absolutely nothing. She nodded slowly. When did that start? A memory surfaced. I was 10, folding laundry while Mom sobbed about Valerie's latest disaster, mascara staining my shirts. You're such a good girl, Claire, she'd said. So practical. Thank God I have one daughter I can rely on. I told Dr. Lisa everything. The years of emotional labor, the way I became the family's silent fixer, accountant, therapist, the invisible daughter. You were parentified, she said softly, made responsible for your parents' emotional survival, and now you're finally setting that burden down. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. A number I didn't recognize. I answered out of instinct. Claire, it's Jordan. I need to see you. It's important. What is it? It's about your mom and something I found on her phone. Something you really need to hear. Dr. Lisa raised an eyebrow as I stood. You okay? I don't know, I said, but I'm about to find out. We met at a quiet coffee shop. Neutral ground. Jordan looked different, drawn, tired, like someone who'd been living under the same weight for too long. He slid his phone across the table. I found this on your mom's old phone while helping her with settings. She didn't know it was still there. He hit play. My mother's voice filled the air, shaky, younger, but still her. Sarah, I can't do this anymore. You don't understand. Claire wasn't supposed to happen. Theodore wanted to keep her. It would have looked bad if we didn't. But I never wanted. A sharp breath. A pause. God, I sound awful. Delete this. The audio cut off. I sat perfectly still. My fingers didn't twitch. My heart didn't race. I didn't cry. Something inside me had already known. I'm sorry, Jordan said quietly. I thought you deserved to hear it. You're right, I said, handing the phone back. I did. What are you going to do? I stood, slinging my purse over my shoulder. Nothing. They're doing it all to themselves. But Jordan wasn't done. There's more, he said, hesitating. I overheard your mom on the phone. She mentioned documents. From your surgery night. Power of attorney papers. She called them their insurance policy. I froze. What kind of insurance? He looked me straight in the eye. The kind that could force you to take responsibility for their debts, their estate, everything. By the time I returned to the office, security had already removed my father. He'd shown up drunk, shouting in the lobby about ungrateful daughters and betrayal. Emery met me at the elevator with a tight expression. He left this, she said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a photo. Me at 8 years old, kneeling in the kitchen, bandaging Valerie's scraped knee while Mom took pictures. On the back, scribbled in my father's handwriting, "You were always the responsible one. Don't fail us now." I walked straight to my office and called Margaret. She picked up on the first ring. "They filed something, didn't they?" I asked. "They did," she said. "They're trying to reactivate the forged medical proxy forms from the night of your surgery." "Can they?" "Legally? Number. But they're counting on confusion. Hospitals don't always check old fraud reports. I want a full stop on anything they touch. And Margaret, can you check if they sold my grandmother's house?" She didn't answer right away, but the silence said everything. "I'll add it to the fraud investigation," she finally said. After hanging up, I stared at the photo again. That little girl on the floor, always fixing, always sacrificing. She was gone. My phone buzzed, a video message. I pressed play. Mom appeared on screen, red-eyed, makeup smeared. "Claire, baby, please, we're about to lose everything. Your father, his heart, he's not well. The doctors say he might not make it. Please, just call us." I zoomed in on the background. Dad's designer watch still on his wrist. Mom's luxury handbag propped next to her, still clinging to appearances, still not desperate enough to sell their pride. Emery knocked gently. "Your mom's in the parking garage. Security says she's not leaving." "Of course she isn't." She tossed me my coat. "Back door's clear. Car's already on the way." As we slipped through the service exit, my phone lit up. Dozens of messages. Not from my parents. From their proxies. Family friends. Distant cousins. People I hadn't heard from in years. "Claire, how could you abandon your parents? Your father might not survive this stress. What happened to you?" Each message was another attempt to reel me back in, but I wasn't playing their game anymore. Emery glanced over as we pulled away. "Still want to move up that Thailand trip?" I looked back at the building where my mother was likely still waiting. "I don't want to wait anymore," I said, pulling out my phone. "Let's pack tonight." She smiled. "You sure?" I looked out the window and felt nothing but peace. I'm done waiting for their next move. It's time I made mine. The plane lifted off just after midnight. I watched the city shrink beneath us, lights dissolving into clouds. I didn't say goodbye. Not to my parents. Not to my sister. Not to the life I'd outgrown. Emery and I landed in Thailand the next day. It was warm, bright, peaceful. The kind of place where no one asked questions. No one expected anything. No one demanded I bleed for them to survive. Our resort had glass doors that opened onto the beach. You could hear the ocean even when you weren't listening. And for the first time in forever, I didn't feel like I had to earn rest. I just rested. Until the phone rang. An unknown number. Something in me still flinched. Old habits. I answered. "Miss Westbrook?" The voice was clinical, cold. "This is Memorial Hospital. I'm calling to inform you. Your father has had a stroke. He's in critical condition." I stared at the sea, calm as ever. "I'm not his emergency contact," I said flatly. "You're listed on one older form as medical proxy. We need approval." "No," I interrupted. "Those documents were forged. Check your fraud report." A long pause. Paper rustling. "Yes. I see that now. I'm sorry to have bothered you." I hung up. Emery looked up from her lounge chair. "Something wrong?" "Dad had a stroke," I said. "They're trying to guilt me into approving surgery." "Are you going to?" "No," I said, turning my face to the sun. "They don't need me. They just need someone to blame." My phone buzzed again. "Valerie." You're on vacation while Dad is dying? Mom, his blood will be on your hands if you don't come back. An old friend of theirs. How could you abandon them like this? I forwarded them all to Margaret. Her reply came quickly. Hospitals have been notified. Your mother holds legal authority as spouse. You are clear. I scrolled through more messages. A video appeared. My mother, in a hospital room, weeping. Claire, he's asking for you. How can you do this to us? I zoomed in. Dad's Rolex still on his wrist, her Chanel purse in the corner. They weren't broke, just running out of people to exploit. Another message from Jordan came in. They're lying. It was a mild stroke. He's stable. They're using it to manipulate you. I know, I replied. I opened my banking app, the money they expected me to use to save them. I moved it all to a new account, under a new name, a place they'd never find it. My phone rang again. Memorial Hospital. Miss Westbrook, your mother is insisting we need your approval to... Let me be very clear, I said, my voice calm. I died on your operating table while they attended a party. They forged documents to cover it up. I've submitted proof to your legal department. Don't ever call me again. Silence. Then, understood. I ended the call, set my phone down, and for the first time in a very long time, I leaned back and breathed. Emery clinked her drink against mine. To peace? I smiled. To peace and permanence. As the sky turned pink and the tide rolled in, I felt the weight of their expectations wash out to sea, and I didn't chase it, not this time. When I returned home, I didn't go back to my apartment or the office. I went back to the house, the one I'd grown up in, the one they'd drained dry. A foreclosure sign stood crooked in the yard, grass overgrown, curtains drawn, paint peeling around the door. It looked less like a home and more like the skeleton of a lie. I parked across the street, camera in hand, not to confront, to document. I took pictures of every cracked window, every no trespassing notice, every vine creeping up the porch railing, images that spoke more truth than any apology ever could. My phone buzzed. Margaret. All final documents filed, accounts separated, legal ties severed. Claire, you're officially free. I exhaled slowly. This was the last shot for my upcoming gallery show. 78 seconds, a story of rebirth. A car pulled up beside mine. Emery stepped out, coat fluttering in the breeze. You sure about this? I just need to see it empty, I said. One last time. We walked up the cracked driveway together. Through the front window, I could see the remains of my childhood. The staircase where Valerie used to pose for photos. The kitchen where I patched wounds and poured tea I never got to drink. All of it. Quiet. Hollow. Then a second car pulled up. Black. Polished. Familiar. My mother stepped out, wrapped in luxury. Sunglasses too large. Jacket too perfect. Voice already trembling. Claire, she breathed. I knew you'd come back. I didn't, I said. I came to capture the ending. She blinked. There is no ending, she said, trying to smile. We're family. There was, I replied. 78 seconds of it, while you smiled for cameras. She scoffed. Oh, that again? Why can't you let it go? Because I lived it, I said, while you edited captions. Another door slammed. Valerie. Gone was the designer wardrobe. Gone was the golden child glow. She looked like any other woman worn down by her own choices. You came here to gloat, she hissed. We're ruined. Are you happy? No, I said. You're just finally living in reality. Valerie stepped forward, her voice rising. Reality is you left us with nothing. I tilted my head. Number, I left you with exactly what you built. Mom's voice cracked. We're your family. I raised my camera, snapped one photo. You were, I said. Now you're just a lesson. Valerie's eyes filled with tears. We made mistakes, but we loved you. No, I whispered. You used me. Mom stepped forward, arms out. Please, We can fix this. We can't, I said, backing away. Because the woman who stood in your shadow, she died on that operating table. I turned to leave. Valerie grabbed my arm. You can't just walk away. I met her gaze. Watch me. I pulled free. My gallery opens tonight. You should come. You'll finally see what death taught me about living. Back in the car, I looked in the mirror. 2 women, 1 house, no more control. You okay? Emery asked quietly. I started the engine. I'm better than okay, I said. I'm free. The gallery was full before the doors even officially opened. 78 seconds, a story of rebirth, etched in gold above the entrance. Just beneath it, a quiet inscription. Sometimes karma isn't revenge. Sometimes it's walking away. Each photo told a chapter. My empty hospital bed, wires and tubes still in place. My phone screen, lit up with unread messages asking for money, none asking if I was alive. The forged proxy form, the foreclosure notice, a wedding dress abandoned in a bridal boutique, a staircase framed in silence. And at the end, one final image. My mother and sister, standing outside the crumbling house, caught mid-argument, powerless. A small plaque beside it read, "They told me I owed them everything, but I didn't owe them my life." I stood back, letting the story unfold around the crowd. People whispered, pointed, wiped tears. They didn't know the full history. They didn't need to. They felt it. You ready? Emery asked, stepping beside me with 2 glasses of champagne. For what? For whatever comes next. I smiled. I already started. From across the room, Jordan approached quietly. They're here, he said. I turned. My mother and sister had slipped through the doors, not dressed in designer gowns this time, not smiling. They walked past strangers staring at the photos that told the truth they'd spent decades burying. Valerie stopped in front of the hospital image. Mom paused at the photo of the foreclosure notice. They didn't say a word. And then, they left. No scene, no apology, just the quiet retreat of people who had finally seen themselves through someone else's lens. Jordan lingered. You didn't flinch. I didn't need to. He looked around. You won, you know. I shook my head. It's not about winning. It's about being free. As he stepped back into the crowd, Emery raised her glass. To 78 seconds? I clinked mine gently against hers. No, I said, eyes fixed on the exit. To everything that came after. Later that night, I stood on the gallery's rooftop. The city pulsed below me, alive, chaotic, forgiving. Behind me, applause, art, and truth. In front of me, space, peace, a future I hadn't dared to imagine. My phone buzzed. A message from Valerie. Please, we need you. I stared at the screen, then pressed delete. They needed me, but I didn't need them. Not anymore. The wind swept across my face, cool and light, and I whispered into the night, not as a daughter, not as a fixer, not as their ghost, but as Claire, whole, alive, free.